Dear Ethiopia, to this day you are my favorite mistake. Okay, maybe mistake was too harsh of a word. Maybe I should say unexpected layover. Years ago, my subscribers voted to send me to Hargeisa, the capital of the self-proclaimed state of Somaliland, for a geography. Why did I stop doing those? Oh yeah, the pandemic. But things are opening up now, so maybe I should do them again. Whatever, I digress. Anyway, all of this was in pre-pandemic times, and back in those days, when I was a little younger and looked a little sexier, the only way you could get to Hargeisa was through Ethiopia. So obviously, that meant I would have to go to Ethiopia. And even though it wasn't the objective of my trip, I still wanted to document this place I had never been to in hopes to share it with my subscribers one day. So here we go, the unaired footage. For this trip, I had to bring the world's best cinematographer and one of my best friends, Caleb. Prior to this trip, Caleb had never even left the USA, not even to Canada. And now, his first passport stamps were going to be in East Africa. Perfect way for him to start, right? In any case, I'll report back to you when I'm done showing this obligatory transit montage coming up. Dear Ethiopia, you know, it's funny, I've been teaching about the world for almost 10 years, but the ironic thing is most of the time I'm just standing in a studio talking about things I've never actually seen. When I made the Ethiopia episode on my channel, the most exposure I had to Ethiopia was from the little Ethiopia neighborhood we have here in Los Angeles, as well as Samri, my Ethiopian friend who was the co-host of the episode. Now, for me personally, I'm a city guy. I love concrete, glass skyscrapers. A large metropolitan area with a chaotic social atmosphere actually kind of calms me down. It's the quiet boredom that kills me. And if there's one thing I am sure of, it's that when I stepped into Addis Ababa, I was completely within my comfort zone. Addis Ababa, largest city in Ethiopia, the land of origins. Dear Ethiopia, so let's just be honest. We all know that the Live Aid Ethiopia famine benefit concerts in the 80s was pretty much the culprit behind the starving kids with bloated bellies image that is immediately conjured up when most people think of the word Ethiopia. And look, I'm not here to sugarcoat everything. Yes, there is a degree of noticeable struggle and conflict in Ethiopia, even to this day with recent skirmishes with the Tigray ethnic group. Ethiopia is such a complicated place with so much backstory, but my main objective is to just know what Ethiopians are thinking and want the world to know. When I make Geography Now videos, this is one of the biggest questions I have that conventional forms of research cannot answer. You simply have to just talk to the people that live and breathe the country every day to get those answers. So with that, my host, correspondent, and go-to Ethiopian would be Abdullah, who is willing to take Caleb and I around and let us stay in his, should I say rather, lavish house. So check the place we're staying at. And there's Caleb. And there's the marble staircase. Ethiopia. Okay, it's recording. Got it. All right, so we're here with Abdul from Ethiopia. Abdul, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, good. So we're gonna talk about Africa, basically. So what do you think is the perception most people have about Africa, first of all?
The first thing that comes to their mind is when I meet people from different countries is poverty. They think of poverty, they think of starving kids, they think of shanty houses. We do have poverty, But alongside the poverty, the country or the city is also growing. There are signs of modernity in Ethiopia.
You live here in Ethiopia and everything like that. How is your experience living here, and especially here in Addis Ababa, the capital?
So the housing, Addis Ababa is growing 4 to 6% per year.
Per year.
Per year. The urbanization is heavy, so land becomes more expensive. And also Addis Ababa is a political capital city of Africa, so we cater to 130 embassies. The African Union is seated here, and the UN, Economic Commission for Africa, is located here. So it's a big diplomatic city.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is the level of urbanization is much greater than
The rate at which the people move in. Yeah.
Exactly. But the good thing is the government provides, we're a poor country, but the government still provides free healthcare and free education, including university. Banks in Ethiopia are all local banks. Government does not allow foreign banks to operate in Ethiopia.
Only local.
Only local banks. And owning a bank share is one of the most lucrative businesses you can get into.
Yeah.
Local banks are very strong. The government protects. That's why the government protects these local banks, because they can't compete with foreign banks. And if you own a share in a local bank, you can get up to 30% dividend.
Up to 30%
per year.
Wow.
So currently there are about 80 ethnic groups. 80 plus ethnic groups.
And the largest ones are the
Oromo and Amara are the two largest groups. About 50% of the population is from those two groups.
Which one are you from?
I'm from Harar.
Harar.
Yeah, which is the smallest region in the country. It's the only city within Ethiopia that has a wall. It's a wall city, and we're famous for having friendly hyenas.
Hyenas?
Hyenas, yes. I trust a hyena more than a dog in Harar.
Dear Ethiopia, so what I'm getting at is that to many people across Africa, you're kind of perceived as like a big shot hosting the AU and holding many IGOs and summits that intertwine much of the African continent. That's a pretty esteemed position to hold. But when I see your country, it looks like at least the work is workening. I remember I wanted to get a glimpse of this notion firsthand, so I asked Abdul if he could ask the construction workers on a nearby site if we could sneak in and explore. Going up. So this is what the inside of one of those constructed buildings looks like, and the view, quite good. Wow. Dear Ethiopia, I'm noticing a few small things. Number one, now I've been to many places where livestock are common in city centers. I mean, goats and sheep are no surprise to me. But here in Addis Ababa, there are so many horses everywhere, just roaming the streets. I asked Abdul why, and he said after horses get old and have lived past their ability to serve, people will just kind of let them go and roam around as it is too expensive to keep them. Second, due to the heavy flow of migration, vehicles have a very regulated system that they must abide by. Rickshaws are only allowed on the outskirts of the city, not in it, and all cars have a color-coded license plate system that tells you what they are used for. For example, cars with red license plates are taxis, green is for commercial business, black is for government, and probably the most expensive one, the blue, is used for private car owners.
The problem in Ethiopia is there's a heavy urbanization, because 80% of Ethiopia's population are farmers. So when this heavy urbanization happens, there's a major movement of migration into Addis Ababa.
The city, yeah.
So anything that we produce here locally, agricultural goods and stuff like that, they will be cheaper. But most of the products you find we import. We spend our foreign currency on it, and there's a limited amount of foreign currency because there's a trade deficiency. Our imports are much greater than our exports.
The imports exceed the exports.
Greatly. It's a question of need and want.
Right.
So government wants to focus on needs, so they want to limit exports of luxury items, so they tax those things heavily.
And they consider automotive, items as luxury items.
Luxury items.
Do you know what the tax rate is?
So they can tax you for a vehicle up to 300%.
Up to 300%.
Up to 300%.
My goodness, wow. Dear Ethiopia, a full masab platter of injera bread with various wat stews is one of my favorite dishes on earth. Admittedly, I don't get to eat it much though, because in most parts of the USA, Ethiopian food is considered exotic and expensive. Isn't it great to just go to the country where these foods originate from and it's so common that they cost less than $1? So all of this was like less than $3? Hey Caleb, want to try an Ethiopian donut? Here. Ethiopian donuts.
It's not very sweet.
Not very sweet. Caleb's gonna try banana root paste.
Oh gosh.
It's not supposed to be sweet. We're at Addis Ababa University and they got turtles here for some reason. Hello, buddy. For the record, no, that was just a random clip. It had nothing to do with food. I was not planning on eating that turtle. In any case, I know there's more to your country than just Addis Ababa, so Abdul decided it was only best to get out of Amhara land and head to his friend Fanuel's home in the city of Adama in the neighboring Oromo region. We were about to go from the highlands to the lush green lowlands. On the way, I saw people selling chat. I've heard of this stuff, the mild stimulant people like to chew, and it's super popular in East Africa and parts of Arabia. Did I try it? Well, I'll leave that up to the imagination of the viewer. When we got to Adama, Fanuel was super proud of his hometown. In his huge house, there was a huge backyard with an entire gojo. These are traditional thatched homes of the Gurage peoples that he is a part of. The entire gojo was almost sitting there like a prized ornament to honor his tribe's roots. I thought that was really cool. So today we're staying in the countryside of Ethiopia. We got kind of the hookup. I mean, this place has a waterfall. That's a gojo house by the Gurage people. And let's see. Wow, I'm impressed. Dinner and a light show. It's raining hard. I will never forget that calming, placid, stormy evening. Dear Ethiopia, I mean, through my research, I already knew that your country sat on the East African Rift System, but I never realized how geothermal it was. My goodness, steaming and smoking rivers and thermal pools. I have never seen anything like this. We're at the natural hot springs. How you feeling, Caleb? Whoa. Love this. They're just everywhere. Look. Little dials, there we go. For the record, that raw beef thing was called kifto, and it's a delicacy of the Gurage peoples. Fair warning, they say if you've never had it before, take probiotics before or after. Don't make the same mistake I did. I spent the entire next evening throwing up in a toilet in Somaliland, one day before I did the geography. Ethiopia is kind of moving forward. Amidst all the chaos, all the crazy stuff happening, they are moving forward in some way. Do you think the rest of Africa can kind of learn from Ethiopia?
They can. We have a lot of good moving pieces in Ethiopia. The question is, how well can we manage these moving pieces? So these are good things. It's how well we manage them and controlling our own narrative.
Interesting you say that, because Eritrea just opened up their relations with Ethiopia.
The worst kind of conflict within Africa, 20 years of no relations after a 2-year brutal war, and then we can come together within a week, within 2 weeks.
Possible.
Just with the Prime Minister making a speech in Parliament and the President of Eritrea accepting it. So why not? other African countries can do the same.
Totally possible.
Totally possible.
Well, any final thoughts? I mean, what do you want the world to know about Ethiopia?
I feel like there's a lot that the world doesn't know about Ethiopia. We're a multi-cultural country. One of the two countries that was not colonized. A country who accepted Christianity and Islam.
And they cooperate pretty well together.
Yeah, you can
your neighbor can be Muslim, you can be Christian, and just you work at the same business and no problem.
There's a lot of love between the people. There's a city in the east of Ethiopia, in Harar, where churches and mosques are right next to each other, and they coexist.
And they're just people.
They're just people.
They're just people.
Yeah.
And Ethiopia is a pretty respected nation.
It is.
So,
during the Derg regime, a lot of young people moved, migrated or fled the country, and these are doctors or engineers, people who can help the country move forward. But the good thing, the thing that's improving is kids who grew up in America, the kids of the people that moved to the US, for example, or Canada in the 1970s, who never been to Ethiopia,
they've never seen Ethiopia,
are moving back.
The kids are.
The kids are moving back.
Not the people who moved. The kids are moving back.
The kids are moving back, and
Interesting.
I've met a lot of diaspora individuals who are trying to start a business, who work for government, who do consulting. So there's like a reverse brain drain happening.
That's good.
So we should encourage this.
Why do you think the kids are moving back?
I think because the parents were forced to go. It wasn't out of necessity, wanting to go. So they still had this huge sense of
longing for the motherland.
Longing for the motherland.
Yeah.
So they instill this in their kids. So the kids still speak the language. They still feel Ethiopian.
Yeah.
So they want to move back and.
Sounds like the parents did a good job. The parents did a good job.
Yeah.
Heading back to Addis Ababa, I made a social media post asking if any of my subscribers were in the city and wanted to meet up, and to my surprise, there were actually quite a few of them. Dear Ethiopia, sometimes a layover is so serendipitous that it actually ends up becoming a destination. And if lucky, that destination is warranted a return. But until then, thank you for your time. Sincerely, Barbs.